Potsdam is the capital and largest city of the German federal state of Brandenburg. It directly borders the German capital Berlin and is part of the Berlin-Brandenburg Metropolitan Region. It is situated on the River Havel, 24 kilometers southwest of Berlin's city center. Potsdam was a residence of the Prussian kings and the German Kaiser until 1918. Its planning embodied ideas of the Age of Enlightenment. Through a careful balance of architecture and landscape, Potsdam was intended as a picturesque, pastoral dream which reminded its residents of the relationship with nature and reason. Around the city there are a series of interconnected lakes and cultural landmarks, in particular the parks and palaces of Sanssouci, the largest World Heritage Site in Germany. The Potsdam Conference, the major post-World War II conference between the victorious Allies, was held at another palace in the area, the Caecilian Hall. Babelsberg, in the southeastern part of Potsdam, was a major film production studio before the war and has enjoyed success as a major center of European film production since the fall of the Berlin Wall. The film studio Babelsberg is the oldest large-scale film studio in the world. Potsdam developed into a center of science in Germany in the 19th century. Today, there are 3 public colleges, the University of Potsdam and more than 30 research institutes in the city. Etymology. The name Potsdam originally seems to have been Podstupimi. A common theory is that it derives from an Old West Slavonic term meaning beneath the oaks, i.e. the corrupted Poddubmi. However, some question this explanation. Geography. The area was formed from a series of large moraines left after the last glacial period. Today, the city is 3/4 green space with just 1/4 as urban area. There are about 20 lakes and rivers in and around Potsdam, such as the Havel, the Griebenitzsee, Templiner See, Tiefer See, Jungfernsee, Teltaukanal, Heiliger See and the Sacroer See. The highest point is the 114-meter-high Kleiner Ravensberg. Potsdam is divided into 7 historic city districts and 9 new Ortsteile, which joined the city in 2003. The appearances of the city districts are quite different. The districts in the north and in the center consist mainly of historical buildings. The south of the city is dominated by larger areas of newer buildings. Climate. Potsdam has an oceanic climate with cold and snowy winters and warm summers. Winters are cold with a high of 0 degrees Celsius and a low of -5 degrees Celsius. Snow is common in the winter. Spring and fall are short. Summers are quite warm with a high of 24 degrees Celsius and a low of 14 degrees Celsius. Demographics. Largest groups of foreign residents as of 2012. History. The area around Potsdam shows occupancy since the Bronze Age and was part of Magna Germania as described by Tacitus. After the great migrations of the Germanic peoples, Slavs moved in and Potsdam was probably founded after the 7th century as a settlement of the Haveli tribe centered on a castle. It was first mentioned in a document in 993 AD as Podstupimi, when Emperor Otto III gifted the territory to the Quedlinburg Abbey, then led by his aunt Matilda. By 1317, it was mentioned as a small town. It gained its town charter in 1345. In 1573, it was still a small market town of 2,000 inhabitants. Potsdam lost nearly half of its population due to the 30 Years' War, a continuous Hohenzollern possession since 1415. Potsdam became prominent when it was chosen in 1660 as the hunting residence of Frederick William I, Elector of Brandenburg, the core of the powerful state that later became the Kingdom of Prussia. It also housed Prussian barracks. After the Edict of Potsdam in 1685, Potsdam became a center of European immigration. Its religious freedom attracted people from France, Russia, the Netherlands and Bohemia. The edict accelerated population growth and economic recovery. Later, the city became a full residence of the Prussian royal family. The buildings of the royal residences were built mainly during the reign of Frederick the Great. One of these is the Sanssouci Palace, famed for its formal gardens and rococo interiors. Other royal residences include the New Palace and the Orangerie. In 1815, at the formation of the province of Brandenburg, Potsdam became the provincial capital until 1918, however, interrupted and succeeded by Berlin as provincial capital between 1827 and 1843, and after 1918. The province comprised two governorates named after the capitals Potsdam and Frankfurt. Governorate of Potsdam. Between 1815 and 1945, the city of Potsdam served as capital of the Governorate of Potsdam. The Regierungsbezirk encompassed the former districts of Uckermark, the Mark of Priegnitz, and the greater part of the Middle March. It was situated between Mecklenburg and the province of Pomerania on the north, and the province of Saxony on the south and west. Towards the northwest the governorate was bounded by the rivers Elbe and the Havel, and on the northeast by the Oder. The southeastern boundary was to the neighboring governorate of Frankfurt. About 500,000 inhabitants lived in the Potsdam Governorate, which covered an area of about 20,700 square kilometers, divided into 13 rural districts partially named after the capitals. The traditional towns in the governorate were small, however. In the course of the industrial labor migration, some reached the rank as urban districts. The principal towns were Brandenburg upon Havel, Köpenick, Potsdam, Prenzlau, Spandau and Ruppin. Until 1875 also Berlin was a town within the governorate. After its disentanglement, a number of its suburbs outside Berlin's municipal borders grew to cities, many forming urban within the governorate of Potsdam, such as Charlottenburg, Lichtenberg, Rixdorf, and Schöneberg. The urban districts were 20th century. Berlin was the official capital of Prussia and later of the German Empire, but the court remained in Potsdam, where many government officials settled. In 1914, the Emperor Wilhelm II signed the declaration of war in the Neues Palais. The city lost its status as a second capital in 1918, when Wilhelm II abdicated at the end of World War I. At the start of the Third Reich in 1933, there was a ceremonial handshake between President Paul von Hindenburg and the new Chancellor Adolf Hitler. On the 21st of March 1933, in Potsdam's Garrison Church in what became known as the Day of Potsdam. This symbolized a coalition of the military and Nazism. Potsdam was severely damaged in bombing raids during World War II. The Cecilienhof Palace was the scene of the Potsdam Conference from the 17th of July to the 2nd of August 1945, at which the victorious Allied leaders met to decide the future of Germany and post-war Europe in general. The conference ended with the Potsdam Agreement and the Potsdam Declaration. The government of East Germany tried to remove symbols of Prussian militarism. Many historic buildings, some of them badly damaged in the war, were demolished. When in 1946 the remainder of the province of Brandenburg west of the Oder-Neisse line was constituted as the state of Brandenburg, Potsdam became its capital. In 1952 the GDR disestablished its federative states and replaced them by smaller and new East German administrative districts. Potsdam became the capital of the new Bezirk Potsdam until 1990. Potsdam, southwest of Berlin, lay just outside West Berlin after the construction of the Berlin Wall. The walling off of West Berlin not only isolated Potsdam from West Berlin, but also doubled commuting times to East Berlin. The Glienig Bridge across the Havel connected the city to West Berlin and was the scene of some Cold War exchanges of spies. After German reunification, Potsdam became the capital of the newly re-established state of Brandenburg. There are many ideas and efforts to reconstruct the original appearance of the city, most remarkably the Potsdam City Palace and the Garrison Church. Politics. Administration. Potsdam has had a mayor and city council since the 15th century. From 1809 the city council was elected, with a mayor at its head. During the Third Reich the mayor was selected by the NSDAP and the city council was dissolved. It was reconstituted in token form after the Second World War, but free elections did not take place until after reunification. Today, the City Council is the city's central administrative authority. Local elections took place on the 26th of October 2003 and again in 2008. Between 1990 and 1999, the chairman of the City Council was known as the town president, but today the post is the chairman of the City Council. The mayor is elected directly by the population. The Landtag Brandenburg, the parliament of the federal state of Brandenburg, is in Potsdam. It is planned to move into the Potsdam City Palace in 2014, after its reconstruction. International relations. Twin towns and sister cities. Potsdam is twinned with the following cities: education and research. Potsdam is a university town. The University of Potsdam was founded in 1991 as a university of the state of Brandenburg. Its predecessor was the Akademie für Staats- und Rechtswissenschaften der DDR Walter Ulbricht, a college of education founded in 1948 which was one of the GDR's most important colleges. There are about 20,000 students enrolled at the university. In 1991 the Fachhochschule was founded as the second college. It now has 2,400 students. In addition there is a College of Film and Television, founded in 1954 in Babelsberg, the former center of the German film industry since its birth, with currently 600 students. There are also several research foundations, including Fraunhofer Institutes for Applied Polymer Research and Biomedical Engineering, Max Planck Institute for Gravitational Physics, Max Planck Institute of Colloids and Interfaces, and Max Planck Institute for Molecular Plant Physiology. The GFZ German Research Center for Geosciences, the Potsdam Astrophysical Institute, the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies and the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research, which employs 340 people in researching climate change. As well as universities, Potsdam is home to reputable secondary schools. Montessori Gesamtschule Potsdam, in western Potsdam, attracts 400 students from the Brandenburg and Berlin region. Main sites. Potsdam was historically a center of European immigration. Its religious tolerance attracted people from France, Russia, the Netherlands and Bohemia. This is still visible in the culture and architecture of the city. The most popular attraction in Potsdam is Sanssouci Park, 2 kilometers west of the city center. In 1744 King Frederick the Great ordered the construction of a residence here, where he could live. Sanssouci. The park hosts a botanical garden and many buildings. The Sanssouci Palace, a relatively modest palace of the Prussian royal and German imperial family. The Orange Palace, former palace for foreign royal guests. The new palace, built between 1763 and 1769 to celebrate the end of the 7 Years' War, in which Prussia celebrated its victory in holding off the combined attacks of Austria and Russia. A century later, in 1866, in the 7 Weeks' War, Prussia defeated Austria and ended 3 centuries of Habsburg dominance in Germany. It is a much larger and grander palace than Sanssouci, having over 200 rooms and 400 statues as decoration. It served as a guest house for numerous royal visitors. It is now housing parts of University of Potsdam, the Charlottenhof Palace, and Neoclassical Palace by Carl Friedrich Schinkel, built in 1826. The Roman Baths, built by Carl Friedrich Schinkel and Ludwig Persius in 1829 to 1840. It is a complex of buildings including a tea pavilion, a Renaissance-style villa, and a Roman bathhouse. The Chinese Tea House, an 18th-century pavilion built in a Chinese style, the fashion of the time. 3 gates from the original city wall remain today. The oldest is the Hunter's Gate, built in 1733. The Nauener Tor was built in 1755 and close to the historic Dutch Quarter. The ornate Brandenburg.It is situated on the Louis-and-Platz at the western entrance to the Old Town. The Old Market Square is Potsdam's historical city center. For 3 centuries this was the site of the City Palace, a royal palace built in 1662. Under Frederick the Great, the palace became the winter residence of the Prussian kings. The palace was severely damaged by bombing in 1945 and demolished in 1961 by the communist authorities. In 2002, the Fortuna Gate was rebuilt in its original historic position, which marks the first step in the reconstruction of the palace. The Old Market Square is dominated today by the dome of St. Nicholas Church, built in 1837 in the classical style. It was the last work of Carl Friedrich Schinkel, who designed the building but did not live to see its completion. It was finished by his disciples Friedrich August Stüler and Ludwig Persius. The eastern side of the market square is dominated by the Old City Hall, built in 1755 by the Dutch architect Jan Bouwman. It has a characteristic circular tower, crowned with a gilded atlas bearing the world on his shoulders. North of the Old Market Square is the oval French church, erected in the 1750s by Bouwman for the Huguenot community. Another landmark of Potsdam is the two-street Dutch Quarter, an ensemble of buildings that is unique in Europe, with about 150 houses built of red bricks in the Dutch style. It was built between 1734 and 1742 under the direction of Jan Bouwman to be used by Dutch artisans and craftsmen who had been invited to settle here by King Frederick Wilhelm I. Today, this area is one of Potsdam's most visited districts. North of the city center is the Russian colony of Alexandrovka, a small enclave of Russian architecture built in 1825 for a group of Russian immigrants. Since 1999, the colony has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site. East of the Alexandrovka colony is a large park, the New Garden, which was laid out from 1786 in the English style. The site contains 2 palaces. One of them, the Caecilian Hall, was where the Potsdam Conference was held in July and August 1945. The Marmor Palais was built in 1789 in the style of Classicism. Nearby is the Biosphere Potsdam, a tropical botanical garden. Another district of Potsdam is Babelsberg, a quarter southeast of the center, housing the UFA film studios, and an extensive park with some historical buildings, including the Babelsberg Palace. The Einstein Tower is located within the Albert Einstein Science Park. Park, which is on the top of the Telegrafenberg within an astronomy compound. There are many parks in Potsdam, most of them included in UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Some of them are parks in Potsdam. Potsdam also includes a memorial center in the former KGB prison in Leistikow-Strasse. Transport. Rail transport. Potsdam, included in the fare zone C of Berlin's public transport area and fare zones A and B of its own public transport area, is served by the S7 S-Bahn line. The stations served are Griebnitz, Babelsberg and the Central Station, the main and long-distance station of the city. Other DB stations in Potsdam are Charlottenhof, Park Sanssouci, Medenstadt, Babelsberg, Rehbrücke and Pirscheid. The city also possesses a 27 km long tramway network. Road transport. Potsdam is served by several motorways. The A10, a beltway better known as Berliner Ring. The A115 and is closely linked to the A2 and A9. The B1 and B2 federal roads cross the city. Potsdam counts a network of urban and suburban buses. Sport 1. FFC Turbine Potsdam, one of the most successful German female football clubs. SV Babelsberg 03, Football Club Regionalliga Nordost. Olympic Training Center Potsdam, USV Potsdam, Rugby Union and Football. List of football clubs in Potsdam. The Potsdamer Schlosser Marathon is a marathon that is held annually in June. Thousands of runners run the course past the palaces for the half marathon and several hundred repeat the course to complete the full marathon. Notable people. People from Potsdam who are the subjects of Wikipedia articles can be found here.